Welcome, everyone, to Elevate with V. So excited to be here with everyone. So this podcast was inspired by my own healing journey. I aspire to share amazing healers and coaches to help us each elevate on our journey so we can keep aligning with our soul's calling and gifts. I can't wait to introduce my guest today, Suzanne. She and I met actually through a friend of mine, Anya. She introduced me to their private Facebook group that Suzanne and her husband, Kevin, co-host called Light Workers Exchange. And it's truly been a delight to join them and the group. We have beautiful, supportive conversation and exchanges. And really, it's a joy to just be able to join them whenever I can. And I know that every time I come in, I always know that as I'm exiting, I always feel elevated and I feel uplifted and I feel joyous. And it's such a beautiful thing. So that's kind of how we connected. And to introduce Suzanne, she's an intuitive life coach, inspirational speaker, writer, and author of Stepping into a Life of Joy. She specializes in teaching and coaching in the law of attraction. Her greatest joy comes from helping women learn how to tap into their intuition and then combine it with the law of attraction to attract happiness and success in all areas of their life, especially relationships. So welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you, Benita. This is so fun. I was mentioning before we got going how I have a desire to do more interviews, be invited on more podcasts. And this is the first one I've done since, 2019, actually. So have fun. I'll see how nervous I get and how I can talk about things now, but it's always, you got to begin somewhere, right?
Yes, I love it. Listen, if this is the launching pad, I'm super excited because like we were talking, it's like all of us have, a unique voice and we all get to share our healing journeys. And I know you have your own, and a lot of that is in the book as well. And we'll just kind of have a beautiful conversation and share. And like I said, it's like, imagine that you and I were literally sitting in a coffee shop together. Absolutely nothing to be nervous about, right? We're just getting to hang out,
Absolutely.
chill out, enjoy each other, and, learn more about each other. So I'm really, really excited to have you with me. And so usually kind of what I start with is, I'm always very interested in finding out what event or events would have led you into your healing journey.
Well, that's easy to remember, even though it was way back in 2004. At that time in my life, I was running a business with my second husband. So I worked 8 to 5, and I also had another business. I was an entrepreneur, and I used to, and I still did for many more years, but during that marriage, I was also selling lingerie at home parties. It was called undercover wear. Catchy little title, undercover wear. So I did those two things. I was running the business with that husband in the day, and then I was going out in the evenings 2-3 nights a week doing these home parties. It's sort of like Tupperware, but a lot more fun. You don't burn bowls, you try on a nightgown. So it was, it was a fun thing. At any rate, at that time in my life, not only was I married, this was my second marriage, and I had no idea anything about what life is really all about. All I knew was, boy, if I worked hard and put all my focus in trying the best I can and suffered and sacrificed and just pushed myself, I would then probably be worthy of success. I don't know, but I'll keep pushing away. And so this was something that I developed over much of my life, like we all start developing habits when we're little children. But it all came to a head one morning when I was driving off to work, and it was a snowstorm and I could hardly see the roads. I live here in Michigan. It was dark at that time at 7 a.m. driving off, and I was afraid I was going to be late. Well, I shouldn't have been afraid. After all, I was working with my husband. He was the president and I was the vice president. And but yet I knew he was a very critical and judgmental person. And even though it was our business, if I showed up a minute late, he would yell at me. This was something that I had tolerated for a long time. So you better believe I did not show up late, because I don't like being yelled at. And I didn't like to make waves in our relationship, our work relationship, let alone if it came home into the home environment. So anyway, I did safely make it to work just in time, ran in the door. No one else was there, it was just me and him, but the phone was ringing. I grabbed the phone. I wonder why he wasn't getting it, but it didn't matter. I grabbed it because I was one of these people that did everything to make the husband happy. And he really didn't like dealing with customers. So I did. So I grabbed the phone. On the other end of that line was a person, long story short, letting me know that my husband, was leading a double life. He had another house in another city and had a young girl living in it. I knew, I'm getting chills right now thinking about how I found that out. It was just an unusual, because I didn't know the person who called me. I asked who it was and they said, I don't want to tell you. It was a man. So anyway, they did tell me how I could begin searching. They gave me some details. Long story short, I found out that was true. But that day, this was an interesting part, that day when I answered the phone, it was 8 o'clock and the doors were going to open and customers were going to start coming in. It was just a retail store. And so I put quickly, because I'd learned to do this throughout my whole childhood, stuff down my emotions of shock or pain or, oh my God, what am I going to do type of thing, and just pretend like everything's fine. So I put on this false mask that we wear when we feel like we have to protect the situation right now. And I greeted customers and I went in and talked to my secretary when she came, and I pretended like nothing happened. And I just found out my life was falling apart. So after, at that point, that husband, we'd been married, I think about 8 years, 9 years in total. He had gotten into drinking and leaving the office early, and I was glad, like, go ahead, get out of there. So as soon as he left, I told my secretary, who we'd become friends, what had happened. And she said, oh my God, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to do this, and see if it's true, because I don't know this person. I said, I'm going to leave the office. She said, fine. And I found out that it was. So that was a turning point in my life, because not only was that marriage of 9 years, we'd known each other 18, but we didn't get married till 9 years into it. A verbally abusive alcoholic situation didn't really start that way. The signs are there. I met him at a bar. Okay, this was back when there was no online dating. So where do you meet people? In a bar. And but that wasn't the only thing that was the wake-up call. That was a very uncomfortable and very painful situation, pretending all was well, running a business, and then going off and doing these fun lingerie home parties, which was the saving grace of my whole journey with that man, because I could go off and be with the girls and laugh and giggle and forget my worries. It's nice to be distracted from pain and misery, but it doesn't solve the issue. It still comes up to rear its ugly head, and like it did with this awareness, this awakening, like he's got a double life, and I've been ignoring and pushing it down. Not only was he a verbally abusive alcoholic man, my first marriage was too. So Vanita, this is how I eventually got introduced to law of attraction, because I thought, how could this happen to me? This is not just my first verbally abusive alcoholic marriage. This is my second. And my first one was 20 years long with a man I met in high school. And we had 4 children together. That one ended, luckily, when I was introduced to undercover wear and started making some money and started building my self-esteem, because he was verbally abusive and I had a very low self-esteem issue going on. I was my own worst bully. I was an inner critic that never stopped yelling at myself because I heard it from him. I did everything wrong. And you just start running it through your head, and before you know it, it feels true. Like you think you are worthless, and fat and ugly is what he used to call me. And no matter even if you look in the mirror and I now can look and say, oh, wow, I'm beautiful, but not back then. There wasn't a chance I looked in the mirror and thought I was pretty, worthy, or anything. That's how deep my own self-esteem issues were, but nobody knew it. It's not like you go around and saying, I hate myself, I'm ugly. You don't say that to anyone. At least I didn't. And it just runs in your head, and it becomes a very deep neural pathway, groove that you build into your brain that just keeps going and going unless you become aware that you can change that. So this marriage that fell apart with the double life was my wake-up call to finally ask myself, what do I need to know so I never repeat this again? I never want another painful, worthless feeling in my life, let alone with relationships. What do I need to know? What do I need to learn? So that night when I left work, he was already off to the bar. And I'm glad he didn't come back to work. He just stayed off because he knew I would run it. I was an enabler. Boy, did I enable him to just go ahead and be irresponsible. But I thought, if I don't run the business, who's going to do it? I did the payroll, the vendors, and everything. So I just, and if there's anyone out there who's lived with alcoholics that like to blame you for all their problems, what we like to do is just try and make them happy. What can we do to help this go away so you'll stop drinking, so you won't talk like this to me, so you'll be responsible. But no matter how hard we try to make another person happy, that's not where happiness is. Happiness comes from within, and you can't give it to anyone until you first give it to yourself, which is something I had to learn. And that was why I wrote my book, Stepping into a Life of Joy. And it says down here, One Woman's Journey from Misery to Mastery Using the Law of Attraction. So I didn't get introduced to law of attraction right away when I had the wake-up call. I had a journey to go through, don't we all? But at that time, this was, and this is the whole thing when I help people as an intuitive life coach, specializing in law of attraction. My two favorite things are to help you, and especially women, because we've all gone through centuries of being squished down and pushed down and told we can't do this, we can't do that. Not that it was right or wrong, it's just where society was at. Now we're waking up. I think humanity is waking up with the experience of COVID and all of the controlling forces and things that are making people say, what the heck, is this how I want to live? Who am I really? Who do I want to run my life? Do I want the government to run my life? Do I want big pharma to have control over me? Do I want to learn how to actually make myself feel better, even possibly heal myself? Yeah, I do. I still do. I'm still on the journey of, yes, I want to be free. I want to be able to empower myself with all the things I've learned since that 2004 incident. And I continue to learn as I listen to other podcasts, I even listened to some of yours, Benita, and they were very good. So the whole thing is that day that I found out that my life was falling apart and I was never, I couldn't look back. I couldn't even pretend or ignore, because the first husband, who was verbally abusive alcoholic, also had affairs. It wasn't like I was not used to this. If you keep on doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep on getting what you've been getting. Law of attraction is always working. The energy you put out, the thoughts and the low frequency energy of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, go out. They reflect back to you like a mirror, and you continue to attract, not on purpose because I didn't know about this, but just because it's always there, like energy always brings back to you and reflects back to you like energy. You're going to keep repeating it until you get the biggest, unfortunately for all of us, wake up call. That could be, as some of your people on different podcasts say, the dark night of the soul or whatever you want to call it. But all I know is it's painful and you feel so alone and you don't think you can go any farther. So anyway, that week I thought, oh my God, I have to work hard to start saving money, to be able to get divorced, maybe to do something, to hire an attorney. I didn't even know what I was going to do. But the night I went home, finding out all the truth, luckily we had this little dog we'd gotten. She was about 2 years old. I brought her to work with me. Well, thank God for animals and Mother Nature and everything. They just bring light energy to you. They love you unconditionally, and they're just there looking into your eyes and just saying, I love you, no matter who you are, no matter what you're going through. So that night I went home alone in my house. He's off at the bar, and I come in and I'm just broken, and I sat down, slid. I didn't fall, that's a little dramatic, but I did sit down on the floor, and I just started crying, and my dog came running over and she started licking my tears, and I thought, oh, maybe somebody loves me, somebody loves me. And I just hugged her. And and this is the joy, if you're going through a difficult time and you have a pet, and cats aren't exactly like this, but dogs can be a lot easier, and they come up to you and they want to comfort you because they're there to co-create with you. Allow them and hug them and take some deep breaths and listen to your little heart, because that animal has got some heart energy to share with you that can bring you up a little frequency higher to maybe hear a message from God's source energy, your inner being, however you want to call it. So as I'm hugging her and she's looking at my tears, I hear this message. I didn't know it was my inner being. I just thought it was me. It was my voice in my head. And it said to me, what do I need to learn so I never have another painful relationship? What is it? What do I need to know? And I hugged her some more, cried some more. And then one nice thing about crying and letting go and allowing yourself to feel your pain is that you eventually, when you're done sobbing, it's a natural instinct to take a deep breath. And what that does is connects you with source energy. The truth of who you are, the breath of life that you take the minute you take your first breath when you're born, that's the truth of who you are. And God never leaves you. Source never leaves you and is always there for you. And that's why, thank goodness, go ahead and cry and get it out or get angry and then take that deep breath and get reconnected. And the next thought I heard when I took the deep breath was, call the CEO, who's a woman, of Undercover Wear. Well, I'm thinking, why do I need to call her? Yeah, we're friends. I've been in undercover work 25 years now, and she knows my 2 disgusting marriages and how I tolerated these abusive men. And she kept reminding me I don't have to, but I didn't know any different. I thought that was my journey because I was raised in a family that said you stay married forever for the children. And the first marriage I had 4 when they were grown, and I still repeated another painful marriage. So that one wasn't as easy to argue with myself that I couldn't get divorced. But at any rate, I thought, okay, I guess I'll call her. So I called the CEO. Her name was Tiffany James of Undercover Wear. Tell her what's happening. She says, oh my God, Suzanne, I want to help you so much. You need a good attorney. And I said, I don't know one. And she said, well, I'm going to find you one. Well, she lived in Hawaii and Boston, flew back and forth to their 2 homes. I said, fine. I didn't hear from her for a couple of days. And she calls me and she said, I found one for you. She was in a city, a suburb of Detroit, which is what I'm a suburb too. But it was a 45-minute drive for me. Now my life is a turmoil. I'm running a business with this man that I don't even want to look at. And I'm still doing undercover wear parties. And I don't really think I want to drive 45 minutes to find an attorney. Because again, there wasn't this internet handy dandy stuff everybody does now. And she said, just go. And if you don't like her, she'll just refer you to someone closer. Okay, but this is who I know. I said, okay. So I go, and Vanita, the story of who she is, what she was, is in my book. I don't want to take up the whole hour on that. But the amazing part of that co-creation with Source, listening and calling the CEO and her referring me to this attorney who loves helping women get divorced. She said to me after she heard my story, Suzanne, you need to learn how to meditate. And I said, what? I've read about it, but I don't have time in my life to do something like that. Are you kidding me? I raised 4 children. I went through 1 abusive marriage. I'm in the second one. I'm running a business, on and on, of course. I don't have time to learn to meditate. And I roll my eyes and she goes, no, I really want you, if you want me to take your case, I want you to learn to meditate. And I want you to learn Deepak Chopra's primordial sounds. And I said, okay, I just hope it's not in your city because I don't want to drive 45 minutes to learn to meditate. So she takes this deep breath, and she's been meditating actually for many years because she had learned that when you quiet your mind, get in alignment, you can be the best that you are and whatever you're focused in. And as an attorney, she wanted to do the best for her clients and for herself. So she takes this deep breath. Well, this is 2004 when they still had phone books and yellow pages, and opens up the yellow page. And I'm sitting there looking at her, and she's going up and down it. And she opens, oh, this is the beauty of synchronicities, that God is always sending you little, you call them coincidences. There is no coincidence. They all happen for a reason. All the amazing, when I look back on it, I didn't know then, of course, little gifts that the universe has lined up for you to let you know you're on the right path. Keep going, keep going. So she looks down the phone book and she said, oh, it opened up to the city neighboring mine. And I was on the mile edge. So she says, oh my gosh, here's a woman who teaches Deepak Chopra's primordial sounds. And she's 1 mile from your house. Well, I knew I couldn't argue. I rolled my eyes, but I said, okay, I'm gonna go. So I go home, again, not knowing the gift I've been given, with her as my attorney, and her is just saying, I won't take your case unless you do this. Like, what attorney says that? I'll take your money, but no, they don't say, learn how to meditate first. So I go home, I register, and there's one seat left in the class. What are the chances of that? And then the woman says, this is one seat, you've got it. We aren't going to start for a month. So then I thought, okay, that's fine, because I didn't care. Luckily, it was a short drive, so it wasn't going to be any effort to get there. And the very next day, and these are all the little cooperative components, or people call them coincidences, that lined up for me to make me the person I am now, to allow me to eventually write this book, which I didn't do for years, because that was 2004. So Benita, as you and I were talking about, how do we tell our stories? Because other people we know and love are going to be in them, and they might not like the perspective I took on what I was going through compared to what they thought I was going through. And that's what I had to journey through too. I had to learn a lot more to be able to share my story with a little laughter, a little fun, a little truth, and the awareness, like, this is a good ending. Don't you worry. This was a sick story, and it was painful, but I the very next day after she fit me into her meditation class, I thought, I got up early in the morning, because who can sleep with this going on? And I turned on the TV, and my husband, who had been off to the bar, was still sleeping. So I turned on the TV on a regular station. It wasn't cable, it wasn't Netflix, it wasn't anything like that, or the Discovery. Of course, they didn't have them back then. And it stopped on Joel Osteen. Now, he's a spiritual minister out of Texas, well known around the world, even at that time, but even more so known. Very positive, but I wasn't raised in any particular strict religion. We went to church. I grew up on an island in the Detroit River, very small island, so everybody knew everybody, and there were two churches. One was Catholic, one was Episcopalian. So we went to that just because everyone went to church. So I wasn't really religious, and I hadn't read the Bible, and I wasn't taught prayers or anything, so I didn't have any thought about anything. But when I stopped on Joel Osteen, he was so positive. Oh my God, this man just lights up when he tells a version of the Bible, which I'm older. I tried reading the Bible. Sorry, I couldn't get into it. Just doesn't make sense. Like, some of these stories, really, what does it mean? And when I listened to him, I thought, oh no, that's what that story is. Because then he'd tell a story of in real life, right now life. What would that look like? And I was so inspired by listening to him. I started watching him every Sunday. So I had this month, till I was going to the meditation class. And and this was the year 2004 when he wrote his very first book, and it was called Your Best Life Now. And I thought, your best life now, when in the heck is that coming? Like, I would like a best life now. And I love to read. You and I were talking about it. Your reading's not one of your favorite things, but I love to read. So I ordered the book, and it came in, and I had about 2 weeks before the meditation class was to start. And this book, Your Best Life Now, is true life stories of not only Joel and his family. I talk like he's my friend Joel, and and all the people he counseled as a minister in church, and how they've come from very painful situations and gone on and become happy. And I thought, you mean there's hope for me? This is really interesting. My gosh. And hope wasn't an emotion I'd ever felt, Anita. I didn't know what hope was. I didn't know what faith was. I just thought, you work hard, you struggle, you suffer, you sacrifice, and be as good as you can, and help everybody that you can. And someday you might be happy, but I didn't know when that was going to be. I had moments of happiness, totally. In undercover wear, working with all women, achieving. I became a top achiever. I built a structure of 150 women in 3 years. And that's what enabled me to divorce my first alcoholic, verbal abusive man, and raise my 4 children as a single parent, just selling nightgowns. So there's a lot of good in my story and a lot of pain. And that's the roller coaster of life. It's like a roller coaster, and it's always going to go up and down. And we struggle a lot until we finally get to one of those downs where we say, who am I? What am I here for? Why? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of life? Why does it have to be so full of pain? So anyway, I got done reading the book, and this is another moment where I didn't know it, but my inner being was speaking to me. And I just felt so much faith after reading this Your Best Life Now. And I thought, this is such a good book. I read it before I went to bed. I read it in the morning. It was like bookends on a very sick life, just luckily propping me up in the beginning and the end of my days. something that I highly recommend. If now you can listen to YouTube, and if you like audio, you can listen to, don't have to read a book. But that's one of the things that helped me begin my journey of self-awareness and self-empowerment. So I was sitting there in so much faith and peace, like, okay, there's hope for me. This voice came in my head. This voice, it sounded just like Suzanne. If it had been a man's voice, I would have been scared, Vanita, but now it was just me saying, if I ever have another man in my life, I want him to be spiritual. And I thought, what does that mean? Why would I say that? And that's never going to happen, because I hate men, because I went right back down like, I hate men right now. And at that point, I did. I didn't trust them. They were abusive, and that's all I knew. And so I couldn't imagine why I was thinking that. And I thought, so I just shoved it aside. As we do, when we first start getting messages from our inner being or God or the universe, we think it's like, really? And you that's nice. And then you go back to the old habit of, oh, but I hate men, which is where I was at. So now the meditation class comes up. And this is proof to me. I started proving, even before I was introduced to the law of attraction, how you can create your own reality if you're listening and paying attention to the messages. For me in my head, it could be a nudge, an instinct, a feeling, a knowing, a vision. They come in all different ways, messages from the universe. Mine just came with these thoughts in my head. So I go to this meditation class, nice short 1 minute drive down the road. I get in there and she begins teaching, and it was 2 days thing. And I did a lot of crying. She ran some videotapes of Deepak teaching his meditation. And I actually was embarrassed, because I didn't know that when you first begin to meditate, you can release a lot of pent up energy. And I just did like lots of crying in that class and sobbing. I felt embarrassed, but she kept assuring me, it's okay. It's not a problem. People go through this. It's all right. Your body's saying, thank you, let go. And so that's definitely something I always encourage anyone I coach with, how to, and it doesn't have to be meditation. There's other ways to get quiet and release. So, meditate. You don't have to sit like a little guru and sit there for 3 hours and feel like I'm doing it now. It's more like, if you can take 5 minutes just to start and do some breathing, you can reconnect with source. So anyway, I learned a lot from that, and I left that class, and she said, Suzanne, anybody who's been through my course, which it was expensive, we meditate, we get together, optional, but anybody wants to meditate once a month or every other month, whenever you want to come, I do run it for free, and you can come and meditate. And I feel like, you could use some practice. I said, I think I could. And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. Thank goodness. I just thank God that my attorney meditated and found this teacher 1 mile from me, like, what are the chances? So anyway, I went home. I started going to these follow-up things. And long story short on that, and it's in the back part of my book, 2/3 of the way through, this is where I met my now husband, Kevin, at the meditation class. And this is what the universe had lined up for me. Did I know I was going to fall in love with him? Did I know that he'd be this most amazing, beautiful soul that would help me learn how to trust not only myself, but men again? He was on his own journey too. He had gone to the meditation class. He'd already learned to meditate from her when she lived on his side of town. What about that for law of attraction? She just moved to 1 mile from me 3 months previous to when I was going to meet her. So I met Kevin there. But again, I was hating men. I didn't look twice at him. But he kept coming to these follow-up ones, and then we chat a little bit. Eventually he'd ask me out for coffee, and we just keep talking. And he was such a good listener, such a quiet soul. And the fact that a man could actually release stress by meditating instead of drinking was new to me. I'm thinking, what's up? Is this really a man? This must be a girlfriend in disguise. This can't be a man. So I just started liking him and thinking he's a nice friend. I'll keep him for as long as we can stay friends, because he was single. I was going to be single. And then as we stayed on our little friendship journey, in the book I talk about it, I find out that he's 13 years younger than me. Uh-oh, so sorry. I don't know if I can stop that. I should have moved that out of the office. Anyways, such is life, right? Interference. Um, so anyway, I found out he was 13 years younger than me, and I just thought, oh wow, what a wonderful guy. He's just a great friend. I'll just keep him for a friend. And so this is why relationships is one of my most enjoyable things to help people work through and improve. First, your relationship with yourself, learning how to love yourself, trust yourself, listen to your inner guidance, and be at peace with yourself right where you are now, not in a hurry, just learning to take it one step at a time and listen to the little voice inside, or the nudge, or the coincidence that shows up. But then moving on, how to have a relationship that's rewarding and successful and intimate and peaceful and open and honest and great communication. Wouldn't everyone want that? I mean, this is what we want, even if it's not with a partner, but with our boss, with our friends, with our family. So that's why I became an intuitive life coach, because I now know I'm hearing messages from my inner being, source energy. And I also know how to keep, because Kevin and I now, I mean, we were friends for years, and eventually in the book, How We Fell in Love and Got Married is in there. And now we've been married for 15 years in October. And has it been a smooth ride? No, life goes up and down. It's a roller coaster, but the awareness when things are hurting, like, or when we're neither one of us are maybe speaking the truth, but we're trying to protect the other, because he and I are both, law of attraction bringing us together, wanting to make the other person happy. We're both used to just people pleasing in whatever way. So to get two people pleasers together, and then how do you handle that? Like this, it just can't be that easy. Yeah, you want to watch that? Yeah, let's watch that. You want to go out there? Sure, let's go there. We had no arguments. So when we started having little disagreements, it was like, we needed to become aware, me personally, Kevin could speak for himself, that this is an old habit. Is this really what I want to say right now? Is this really how I feel right now? And so it's been a little up and down ride, but always a lot smoother, because I have more awareness and understanding how life really works. So I got introduced to the law of attraction the same month that Kevin asked me to marry him. So that was 2007, January. This whole thing started in 2004. And a friend of mine, I was in undercover wear. After the divorce was over, I thought, that's it. I'll build my undercover wear back up. I trust women. I know how to do it. I know how to make a lot of money. It had shrunk down like every multi-level marketing business. It gives you back what you put in. And when I'm running a full-time business and that, I couldn't give it as much. So I knew I could build it back up. So that's what I'm doing, and really focusing on that. And you know what? I just lost my train of thought, because I just happened to think how Kevin asked me to marry him. So,
well, that's a really big memory. So yes, but yes, you were talking about your lingerie business and wanting to start to build that up to like kind of.
Yeah. Anyway, I knew that's what I was going to do to rebuild my life and have control over at least making enough money to not have to worry about that, because there's just so many things to worry about in life. So I don't know, that's so funny. It just came to a halt, like that memory is so good. You just have to read the book to get the memory of that to share with me. But what questions might you have for me now, Benita?
Well, I mean, that is quite a story. And I just, it's amazing what you were sharing about the synchronicities, right? Like that's what we call it, because how things lined up from like the moment you found out, and even in that moment for you to listen to that nudge that said, hey, call the CEO, and then who she would connect you with. Like when you said that the lawyer would not accept you as a client if you didn't meditate, I'm like, who says that? I have never, ever heard anything like that from anybody. But again, it's no coincidence that that is the person that you're meant to connect with, that would then get you to know I'm going to find the place for you that's close to home. You go there, and it's like this, the thing with connecting with Joel, like just all the things that you shared, it's just incredible, right? It's almost sort of like every nudge that you listened to and you took that step, the next step would show up, and then the next step would show up. And the fact that you could be in this place where you're like, oh my God, I can't even stand men. Okay. I've just many years of just lots of things have happened. And then you end up meeting Kevin in, your meditation. And then years later, you guys, decided to tie the knot, which it's so beautiful that you've been married for 15 years. And like the thought of like just how you got married, even you were just like, oh yes, let me relive that moment. I think that's so beautiful. And I think for me, the thing that I wanted to ask you about is because I know obviously this book is a beautiful kind of, I guess, introduction and summary of a lot of things that you've experienced, which has led you into where you are now. And I think it was really wonderful that you were sharing. It's like a lot of this is about like self-awareness, right? It's like when you realize that you see the pattern and you're like, oh my God, I'm the common denominator. I can't keep saying it's someone else. I'd be like,
I know.
What's my part? What's my part?
That was another thing that I didn't share when I was hugging the dog. Another thought that came to me, that just now came to me because you just said that, a thought that came to me was, I know I'm the one common denominator between the two marriages. I keep taking myself from here to here to here. I'm the one person that keeps coming along with me. What do I need to know about me? And so this is how I got introduced to law of attraction. I think that's where I was going, and I got sidetracked with the memory of how he asked me to marry him. So I went to work that weekend after I found out, and I cried with the dog, and I'd already called the attorney, and I was on a journey moving into wonderful synchronicities that would lead me to where I'm at now in my life. But I went into work, it was a Saturday, and the husband was off at the bar as usual. And I turned on the TV, which we had one running, and I turned on PBS. And at the time, Wayne Dyer was alive, luckily, and he was doing a lot of promoting of his various books and helping PBS get funds. So he was promoting his book and CDs that he had made available, and it was called The Power of Inspiration. And I thought, and I was like, that's interesting. I think I want that. And so I ordered it. And of course, if you ordered the whole kit and caboodle, you just spent 300 and some bucks. You got the book, the CDs, and you were donating to PBS. And I thought, oh, who cares, this is sounding cool. And back in those days, we didn't have iPhones or anything, but I did have this little CD player that I could put on my belt, and I could put the CD in there. And I hadn't gone down to tell, it was just one of the hardest things I had to do was to tell my parents that once again, I was in a miserable marriage and getting divorced. And this man was abusive, and even worse than the first one. It was like, I was so afraid to tell them, because you just don't want to disappoint your parents, because you just want them to love you, of course, and you don't want them to know that you've done it again. So I go down to Florida, and I don't tell them the first day I'm there. My sisters joined me there. We're really close family. And so we all made this trip they knew, my sisters knew what was going on, but we went down just to visit our parents. But they were just so supportive of being there when I was going to tell them. But the first day I couldn't tell them. So I started walking the beach, listening to my CD. Now, this is in the book, and it's something I really always help people do when I'm coaching them and helping them learn how to shift from a low frequency thought, one that doesn't feel good, one that hurts. Because what it is, what I didn't know was our thoughts are producing energy, and everything in life is really just energy. I didn't know that the thoughts that you were thinking that made you feel good, the happy emotions, love, peace, joy, harmony, all that, when you think thoughts like that, it's real high frequency. Love is the highest frequency you can emit. When you think that it comes out, our brain is just transmitting and receiving, almost like computer radio thing. So when you think of thought, it feels good. You're putting out this high frequency energy, and that's right in alignment with source energy. That's what God is. God is love, high frequency. That's where when you get to that frequency, that good feeling place in your heart, you'll feel it. That's when you'll receive your messages and synchronicities. They'll show up for you. And sometimes even when you don't realize it, you'll get the synchronicities because God's letting you know, or the source is, that you're on your right path. Just keep going. Keep going, follow those breadcrumbs. Then I also didn't know that the thoughts that make you feel bad, the low frequency ones, just like darkness is scary, thoughts that feel scary and fearful, and that is dark. Those are the low frequency. And all of this energy like frequency attracts like frequency. So whatever you're thinking, you're putting out into the universe and you're attracting it back to you. Now, if you don't know this, you can't see it. And so you don't realize that you're creating your own reality. And most of the time we create by default because we don't understand the energy we're putting out. And so we just go about our lives, good luck, bad luck, pot luck. I'm sad, I'm happy, and on we go, up and down the roller coaster until we have the wake-up call. And I think the pandemic caused a big wake-up call for a lot of people. And that's why lots of people are searching for the teacher that's going to help them lift themselves up, because we can't do it for you, but we can assist you with what we know and the energy we bring to a session like my coaching sessions. So I didn't know all of that. But when I was walking the beach listening to my CD, Wayne Dyer says, when you think you're having the worst case scenario, the worst, most horrible experience you've ever gone through in your life, stop and ask yourself, what am I thinking? How am I describing this to myself? And I thought, And he pauses in the CD. He's such a great speaker. And I thought, well, it is the worst thing that I could go through. And then he says, maybe if you can't think of anything other way to think about it, maybe you could just call it a blessing in disguise. Now, I wasn't religious, but I like blessing. I like the word blessing because my grandma, my dad's grandma, always just said I was just such a little blessing. And she was very religious, but we weren't trained in religion. Nobody taught us anything. So, but I love being a little blessing to my grandma. So blessing in disguise made sense to me, because if there is a blessing, it had to be in disguise, because I couldn't imagine how anything was good right now. So I thought, I can say that. It's a blessing in disguise. And I start saying it when I'm walking the beach. Okay. And then each time I think I'm a loser, I hate men, blah, 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 everything no, I'd stop, because I want to change my life. And I knew that I was the one common ingredient in this miserable journey that I'd taken. So I loved Wayne Dyer. I've been reading him since I was raising my 4 children. So it was definitely loved him. And I thought, no, it's a blessing in disguise. Now, did I believe at first? No, but I believed in Wayne Dyer. And I just thought he was fantastic. And if you have something to believe in, it's a good energy field, even if it's not in yourself yet, it's okay. You can just follow your guidance. And I thought I could say that. So I would just purposely catch myself. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. And then I dropped the maybe, it's a blessing in disguise. And I just started saying that for the next year throughout my divorce. But I went up to tell my parents then, I finally had the courage, like, maybe it's a blessing. I'm not going to tell them that, because we wouldn't talk about that in our life, but I just had the courage then to go tell them. And when I told them, of course, everybody cried. My sisters were wonderful and supported me, and my journey began. And then I got introduced to the law of attraction the month that Kevin married me, through my a mentor in Undercover, where she wasn't my upline. She was just a friend I'd made who was very successful. And I kept saying, what are you doing? Because my upline was, if anybody's been in a home party plan, or even a if your upline is not kind of energy that you can resonate with. Mine was domineering, my upline was, and very aggressive and very manipulative with her clients. I could watch her do a party and manipulate them into booking a show, and I thought, I just can't do that. I can't tell them they're going to get this if they do that. It just wasn't me. So I had this mentor in another, section in Undercover, where another thing, and I kept calling her. I said, what do I do now? And she said, I'm going to send you this CD. It's called The Secret. It's so cool, Suzanne. It's everything I've done to build my business. This is so cool. So she sent it to me, and I sit down and watch it with Kevin, because now he'd asked me to marry him. We were home from this cool trip that we took on together in the Dominican Republic, and we were watching this, and it was so interesting how we both responded to it. Because now I'm just gone through this terrible part in my life, and I've now found love with Kevin, and I'm just amazed. Like, I turned my life around in just 3 years. This is amazing. And it really made sense to me. But then Kevin, sweetheart that he is, he's very logical, analytical, left brain, IT man. Give me a problem, I will solve it. I'll put all the ducks in a row, and there will be a solution, and I'll solve it. And I love that about him. But he's not, as many men have been raised not to even realize you have emotions that can be felt. You've been trained to, good boys don't cry and little girls are quiet, and those types of things we're raised in. So we get these patterns where, he thought it was really a nice video. He said, that's interesting. He wanted to research it. He thought this was cool. And I said, okay, and I thought, I love this. I mean, I was like right into it, like, I want to research it too, because I want to understand. It seems like there's something missing in that DVD, but I still want to understand it. And then Louise Hay, she put out a DVD of her own, very similar to The Secret. And it was called, I think, Your Best Life or something. Not Your Best Life. It was called You Can Heal Your Life. And in that CD, she had 2 CDs. She had this video she'd made of how these people improve their lives by changing the way they're thinking, picking better feeling thoughts. And then she had another DVD in this set that I bought, where she interviewed the people that helped her produce her DVD. And she interviewed Esther and Jerry Hicks. And I watched them. It was just a short segment because she interviewed everyone. She had a lot of well-known people in that video. And then I got so inspired by listening to all these that I thought, gosh, I want to teach this to someone because I want to keep learning. And so I said to Kevin, I just love this. I just love this. And he's going, well, that's nice. He hadn't done his own research. He's busy doing his IT work and ran his own company. And I'm thankful. And I'm off doing parties and loving this law of attraction thing. And I said, I want to start a program. It's going to call the Women's Self-Awareness Class, because I've become so self-aware of my journey. And I want to help other women learn how to do this so that they can be self-empowered. They don't have to go to therapy for 3, 4, 5 years and just drudge up all this old stuff. They can change their life by changing. You can change the quality of your life by changing the quality of your thoughts. I mean, it's as simple as that. And I wanted to help other women understand. And I learned enough then through everything I've been listening to that I started that program. And then later on, he said, you don't always have to keep selling undercover. Are you loving this? And I said, I don't. Honestly, I just thought I was just going to keep selling undercover work because I would bring in the money that way. He'd bring in this way. And this is what people do. I work hard. I suffer. I sacrifice. And he said, no, if you want to stop selling and just do these programs, maybe we can start a company. And I said, well, maybe we can. What should we call it? And we came up with personal success programs. And so that was in 2007. That was even before we got married. It was when he asked me. By the time we started the company in August, and then we got married in October. And he was so supportive. I just love the guy. I mean, obviously it's pretty clear, but the fact that he gave me permission to quit a job that I really loved the job, but it was interfering with my love life. I wanted to be home in the evenings, snuggling up to Kevin, and I'd never wanted that before. I'd had all these years with men I could care less about coming home to. So it was just a new, exciting discovery that it was almost like divorcing a best friend. Like, really, I don't know if I should let it go or not. But I did, and I'm thankful. And we started our company, and it just all unfolded. He developed a brain tumor a year later, and that'll be in my next book. I'm writing another book, and that's not in my current book, but and that's our story and my story. And that's why I love law of attraction. It's helped me so much. And because in our company, when he had his brain tumor, this is when he said, I have to understand how this really works so I can believe in it. It was nice. It was fun to think you're going to think this and it's going to happen. You're going to manifest it. But now I got a brain tumor. I need to understand if this is real. So mine was, now I've had the second most miserable experience in a relationship I could ever have. And I need to find out, what is life all about? And his was the brain tumor. And even then it was a growth for me, because I would say to myself, if there is a God, if there is the universe really supporting and helping me, why 1 year after I get married to the man of my dreams, does he get a brain tumor? So I had to do my own more exploring. And that's why it took me many more years to finally write the book. But it's all in the book, not that part of it, but it's going to be in the next book.
I love it. Wow. What an amazing, amazing story, Suzanne. I love it. And there's, so much to unpack in the things that you shared. I mean, this could easily be like 2-3 episodes, right? Because it's like, wow, there's so much in here, but yeah. I love what you're sharing. And I know you're giving us like the condensed version of things that occurred over a span of years. But I think what I love the most about what you're sharing is from that moment when things completely fell apart, to, I mean, 3 years is actually not a long time for you to be able to be committed to doing all of that work and, listening to the guidance and flowing and going with it and literally transforming your life, like it didn't look anything like it did, when you
It's
look
so
back.
true. But,
And
it's true. When I was saying 3 years, it's funny. I never really put it together. Like, literally wasn't very long. But interestingly enough, when I was introduced to undercover wear, I had my first moment of my inner being speaking to me, but I didn't know. I was far from listening to my inner being, but I was asking my husband, my first husband, who controlled all the money, but did give me money to raise our children. It wasn't like I didn't have money to go get groceries and stuff, but he would cash a check and keep money for him that I didn't know what he did with, and then give me money to run the household, which was fine. I never was lacking for money, but I never spent money on myself in that first marriage. I just would buy for the kids in the home. I never would ask could I have some money to go bowling with the girls or something, because he would go to the bar at night. So I didn't want to bring him home to watch our children from the bar. So I never asked. And when my girlfriend called me and said, "Hey, I think you should be selling this undercover where you love, with the girls, you need to get out, Suzanne, your life is miserable." I said, "I don't think so. I don't think I can sell. I know nothing about lingerie. And besides which, my husband goes to the bar every night. I'm afraid to ask him for the money, first of all, and then for him to come home to be with the kids. Like, I don't know. And this is what we do. This is what our ego, who wants to always help us protect ourselves and stay stuck in a rut of misery. This is what happens." But she said, "I just ask him. I'll tell you what." She was my girlfriend. She didn't live here. She lived in Boston, where undercover wear was located. And she said, "Just ask him. If he says no, I'll buy your kit back." Well, they don't do that, but she's my girlfriend, so I was going to invest this money in this lingerie kit. And because if he said no, and it didn't work out for me, because she knew I had no sales experience. She would buy it back. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I've had him yell at me before. Big deal. And if he says yes, then I can try it. And it sounds sort of fun, like getting out with the girls. And I'll just do it 1 or 2 nights a month. Don't push it. Don't ask him to come home more than that from the bar. So the night I asked him, of course, he'd come home from the bar, and he had been drinking. And I got my courage up and I said, "Well, I was talking to my girlfriend, Lynn, and she thinks I should sell this lingerie at home parties." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Lingerie at home parties." Well, no one had heard of it. It was brand new. And I said, "It's called undercover wear." And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Well, it's sort of like Tupperware, but it's a lot more fun," she tells me. And he said, "What makes you think you could do that? You know nothing about sales. You know nothing about lingerie. You are too fat to be successful. Salespeople have to be thin. They have to look a certain way, dress for success." And my little heart just went down. And then I thought, "Oh, I've heard this crap before. I've heard him criticize me." And I sat there, and Vanita, I sat there. This was a short length of time, but it felt like 10 minutes. I think I sat there for 1 minute in quietness thinking, I'm not going to argue. He's probably right. I know nothing about sales. I am fat, blah, blah, blah. And in that quietness, this little voice in my head said, "If you give me the money, I will be successful." And I thought, what? Why would I say that to myself? Because again, it's me, Suzanne's voice. If you give me the money, I will be successful. And I took a deep breath. Didn't know about that. And in that short minute, when I'm just sitting there quiet, not arguing with him, he says, "Fine, here's the money." And he threw it at me. "You'll never be successful." And Vanita, in 3 short years, I built a team of 150 women. I was making as much money as he did as an automotive engineer. And I was able to get divorced and free myself.
wow, I got full body chills when you shared that last part. I'm like, oh my God, that's so amazing.
And I almost just started crying, but I hold it together, heaven for I had forgotten that part, like I could start crying about when Kevin asked me to marry him, and I could cry that I didn't know, and I didn't know what I didn't know when I got that message, and I was going to be successful, and I was going to make as much money as he did by selling nightgowns, and enable me to get divorced and raise my 4 children for 10 years as a single parent.
Wow.
I didn't know any of that. I just listened to that voice in my head.
That's amazing. And I think, it's so powerful what you're sharing, because I think for a lot of us, we don't understand what that voice is, and sometimes we're going to listen and sometimes we're not, because if the mind took over and said, Suzanne, just forget about it, you would have
Yeah.
been in a slightly different trajectory, right? And not that it's
Yep.
bad, not that it's bad. It would just be, you'd be in a different journey at the moment. You know what I mean? But it's
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
from what you chose, this is where you're at. And
Yeah.
so I think it's also really important, because I think sometimes we get really stuck. And I think it's important to know, and this is what I've realized, I can only speak for myself, that there really is no wrong choice. It's really not about saying this is good or bad. And I think that's where we get stuck, because we're like, oh my God, what if I do this and it totally takes me into this place where it's just not going to turn out right? And then we get like all flustered and crazy. And
Yeah.
if we had the foresight that whichever path feels right, just go down. And here's the thing, you can always change paths. Just because you took a few steps in one direction doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you can't
Yeah.
reevaluate and say, okay, I did that, but that doesn't feel right anymore. Now I'm going to go in this direction, So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think
That's
that's
it.
such an important thing to just remind people that, like, I mean, we've all navigated different things and we've made choices, which is why you and I are sitting here. I mean,
Yeah.
through my journey, like you said, it's like I saw the patterns. And I was like, whoa, I'm the common denominator. Okay, hold on now. I
Yeah.
got some work to do. I got some stuff to take care of. And in that process, literally like attuning back to yourself, right? Like we've always, so many of us, it's been about like the external. Oh, I got to please this. I got to do that. I got to do this. And what do? We ignore ourselves. And then as you're doing your journey, you're like, oh my God, I'm the most important person. I got to take care of me first. And then everything else follows.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is how that phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup. Fill your own cup up first. You don't have it to give out. And yet I had that so backwards. I was giving and giving and giving of myself, giving to the men, trying to make them happy, giving to my children, my undercover wear team. Oh my gosh, did I give to them? And yes, that one did pay off. But even so, it was a lot of giving, a lot-sided giving. And this is the thing with law of attraction. We're energetic beings. We're temporarily, living our life here on earth. But as we, and to have a nice balanced life of harmony and peace and love, you want your energy flowing back and forth. You don't want to be stuck in any one energy. So can anyone stay in a high frequency, top of the line joy, peace? No, because we chose to come into earth to be able to handle and learn how to navigate these rough waters when we have to, and how to come back into alignment, which helps us grow and also helps source energy grow and expand, because energy is always wanting to expand. It never stands still. And all of this is scientifically proven, but I'm not a scientist. I'm just me, Suzanne. But all I know is if you only give in one direction and all you're doing is putting all your energy towards everyone else, you get depleted, and finally you'll have a wake-up call. And it could be some people get cancer, some people get in a car accident, some people have very much worse things to experience than me, and just 2 marriages where it falls down and falls apart like that. I'm very thankful for that. I can look back on those experiences and actually appreciate that I went through what I went through to have my wake-up call, instead of what I see other people go through. But it's all good. In the end, everybody learns the thing they were wanting to learn when they decided to come onto this earthly plane. We all had an intention. We wanted to experience, to allow our source energy beings to expand even more. We forget who we are when we're born, designed that way, and then our journey is to keep evolving and expanding and learning. And by this, the energy of source keeps expanding also, as we do when we're in this playground called Earth School. And it all just moves in a direction that we choose. We get to choose. But that's why when it doesn't feel right and it's not right anymore, it's okay to breathe and tune in and see which direction do I want to go in now, because it's okay. Everything's okay. This is how we explore. Life is for exploring and having fun, and learning how to navigate through the ups and downs.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think, something else that you said that really stood out for me in a lot of the things that you shared, there were so many things that stood up, but one of the things to me was also this piece of, everyone's at a different place in their journey, and there are going to be people listening. We don't know where they are exactly on their journey, but I think it's so important to share your story, my story, because each person is experiencing some part of what we're experiencing. It will look a little different. The story will look a little different, but it is so much about inner work, right? It's about this, all of this stuff that we realize, all these patterns and external things. And it's, the universe is like, okay, you've done it a few times and now you're still haven't quite understood what's going on. So we might have to just give you the big one for you to be like, okay, now you can't ignore it. You can't just repeat it. Now you're gonna have to be like, okay, stop. I need to like look at this. So I love what you said about that. And then listening to that piece, Wayne Dyer, when he was like, what if it's like a blessing in disguise? And I think like from where you and I are sitting right now, we can look back at these things and say, oh my God, as painful as it was, I am so grateful because look where I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting in a place where I have so much more joy. I know I can create, I get to choose. You're with the man of your dreams, the love of your life, like from someone who's like, I hate men. And then to be in this place, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's amazing, right? And you created that. You co-created that with the universe. And
I did. And that's why I never accept the woman's definition of herself that there's not a good man out there for me. I'm never going to get married. I've given up. I'm not that. If that's what you want, then yes, you can create the not part. But if you want something different, I can help you learn how to manifest a good relationship. But it starts with you, and I'll be there every step of the way to help you learn about you. You have to do the work. I can't do it for you, but I have learned so many wonderful little tips and techniques and tools and things that I did for myself. A lot of them I write in my book, the things that I did to help move in 3 years into marrying Kevin. And they're all there, like these are the things I recommend that work for me. And then you get to pick and choose what feels right too. And you may come up with other ideas too, because we're all, like you say, different on a different journey. So my book, originally when I was starting to write it, I thought, well, what kind of, they ask you when you're writing a book, I took an online course, what category is it going to be? And I got it narrowed down, and it's like a, teaching memoir, a memoir where I teach law of attraction in the simplest, easiest way. So it's a journey from the time I was little and had experiences that I just heard from my mother, because I don't remember when I was newborn, but she tells me the story of what my life was like with her and our family. And then learning the patterns I developed from the time I was born through when I did start having awarenesses. And that's a lot of that new stuff that'll come in my next book, because that one is about me learning how to truly just love me, just for me. Even though I thought I was there, there's more to learn. And so my next book is about, I'm actually going, it's going to be something like this. And it could change, because I had a different title for this book. When I got done with it, I thought, I stepped into a life of joy. That's what I want to call it. And right now, my title for my next book is called The Miracle, You Loving You. Because when you can look at yourself through the eyes of Source, and you can love you as much as Source loves you, that's when the miracles happen.
I couldn't agree more. And, I think for me, and like everything that you're sharing, it's, again, it's like, we're going to be connecting with people on different levels of their journey. So I would definitely say, first and foremost, focus on yourself, heal yourself, do the work that you need to do for yourself, get back to that place, and then build from there. So I know.
Yes. And then you can elevate your life. Right?
Exactly. It's like, come back. And you know what? Just a very important message is focus on yourself. That is not being selfish. That it's called self-love and self-care. And we have been taught everything the opposite. And it's like, this is the time that we get to really focus on ourselves. So I love everything that you've shared, Suzanne. You and I could just keep going, but I'm like, we're more than an hour into our interview.
I know, my goodness, they probably fell asleep by now, Vanita, but that's all right.
No, listen, I think everything that you shared, I mean, there's so much packed into the story. And I think the most important thing to remember is that, we all are in different parts of our journey, but I love that we can share with people, like, these are the things that are possible. You can also have this in whichever way that you want. And
Yeah,
exactly like, yeah, like your book, Stepping into a Life of Joy, like that's available to you. Again, you do have to do work, like Suzanne and I've talked about. She took, many years. I've taken of 3 years, and the journey continues. It actually never quite stops, but it does get easier because we keep building these tools, right? We have these tools to assist us, and we can rely on them to help us. And things that might have taken us like maybe 2 weeks to navigate, now we're like, you know what, I can kind of navigate that a little bit faster. Like I can do it in 2 or 3 days. And again, nothing is wrong or bad. It's just like, it's a muscle, right? The more you keep utilizing this muscle or these tools, you just know you are more attuned and you're able to kind of move through things much faster.
Yeah,
and
that's so true.
It's such an important piece of it, to say that it just takes some time. Like, when Suzanne started, she's like, I don't meditate. I don't know what you people are talking about, and it's like, it's amazing, like where you started. But then as you took the steps, you've probably incorporated different parts of that into your life. And I have my own practices, and everyone should build their own, whatever that looks like.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I just wanted to say thank you again so much, Suzanne. This was so amazing. And I'm so excited. We also got to talk about your beautiful book, and we'll make sure that all of Suzanne's information is going to be in the bio section everywhere that this gets posted. And I did, before we close, want to ask Suzanne, because I know she loves to write from her inner being, channeling from source, whatever you call it. Like I know you have these beautiful messages, and I know you had shared something before we got on this call. So if you'd like to share that as we close out the session, this would be amazing.
I would love to. And thank you for having me. It's been a joy. It just came all back to me, how much I love helping people change their lives from the experiences I've gone through. It just makes my heart, smile when people can become self-empowered with the knowledge of everything that I've learned, that you've learned, that we keep sharing. So I started journaling during COVID, and I'd never journaled before. See, it's always an ongoing journey. And when I was journaling, just writing things down, I got inspired to start drawing the messages I got. So this one that I was sharing with you earlier, this was on my birthday. This was March 9th, so it was only a little while ago. And I turned 76, so you can be young forever, folks. You don't have to let your age think that life is not worth living anymore. It's always worth living if you choose to. And it can be fun, and you can get younger by wisdom instead of counting the days that go by. So I started writing these. When I'd get a message, I'd draw this little heart on a piece of paper. And I thought, I'm going to call these messages from the heart, because I would get this message and it seems like it came from my heart. So I would draw a heart, and then I would put words in it as I, started drawing. So they were things like, this is on my birthday, love is all there is. Source is love. I am love. You are love. We are all love. The distance between who we really are and who we've been programmed to think we are is the distance between fear and love, and dark and light. And that's one of my little messages that I just wrote on my birthday. And then today, as I was thinking how much fun it was going to be to co-create with Anita, on 3/15, I wrote, my message came to me, this is like Earth School. We're going to school right now. It's just, we get to create our reality, which is much nicer than going to actual school, because then you got to learn what they think you need to learn. And so I drew the heart. Let me just get it onto my thing so I can read it to you. And it says, and now back here, I'll go back. So the Earth School, it's the journey between your heart and your head. We'll travel hills and valleys, and we will feel like we're riding a roller coaster. So the hills are the emotional traumas that we store inside ourselves, waiting to be acknowledged, felt, accepted, and released. Those are the bumps, the hills in our life. And then the path through life, that are the valleys, are carved out from the thought patterns and behaviors that pull us deeper into the repetitive ups and downs of life's experience. The distance between the heart and your head is the longest journey on earth.
Release it. Let go of tolerating the hills and the valleys. Free yourself as you build a new, smoother path between your heart and your head, a path of compassion, one of ease and flow, one of harmony and peace, and one of love and joy.
Beautiful, Suzanne. Oh my God, both of those were like packed with information. I
And
love
you
it.
know, like I say, maybe I'll print another small book of all my messages from the heart, and people can just enjoy it that way instead of reading a long book. Although it's not very long.
Well, I love that you shared that because, you know, that's again something very personal to you that you kind of do as your practice, and
Yeah,
such beautiful messages. So I'm really excited that we all get to enjoy them as you
Thank
shared
you.
them today. And, you know, the beauty of this is a recorded thing, so people can listen back to it, you know,
that's
and
true. And they
you know,
can
kind of
take a break and listen to it again tomorrow after the first hour.
you know, this is what happens. That's why I don't kind of put a limit on, you know, because you never know where the conversation is going to take you. So I never tell someone, okay, it's going to be like 30 minutes because I don't know. And I certainly don't want to stop the flow. And I want everyone to feel that they get a chance to share and express what they want to. And, you know, truly you and I could have kept going and digging deeper, but I'm like, okay, you know, it's like one
That's
episode
good.
that we're doing. But
That's
it's
good for now. There's always more.
yes, but it's been amazing. And, you know, I've learned so much more about you today, and just an incredible journey. And truly, for me, you are someone that is living your life with joy and purpose. And I feel that, and I get to enjoy that almost every week that I'm able to make it in the group. So I'm so
Yeah.
excited that you joined me today to co-create this episode. I hope that everyone that's tuning in now or on the replay, whenever in the future, can receive all the beautiful messages that we've shared today. And I hope that there's something in there for you that would be helpful on your journey, could be inspiring, whether it's a word or the last thing that Suzanne shared, anything that we both have shared. And so I'm really looking forward to connecting with everyone on the next episode. So thank you again, Suzanne. And I look forward to catching all my beautiful listeners on the next episode.
Thank you.